Luis, I want to thank you for the work. I know you've been working on this very hard, and I appreciate that we're looking at comprehensive immigration reform in three parts. Being from the border, living there in Laredo, understanding what's been happening there, living there all my life, I understand exactly what's going on, what's legal migration, what's illegal migration. We got to have a strong border security part of it. I know the bill has that. It's very strong, and I appreciate that. The second part is the guest worker plan or some sort of control system to allow people in is important. The system that we have now is one, I think it's a good start, but it's not working. The A, B, and all that. I brought in some folks that have gone over the process itself, and it's just too cumbersome. It's not big enough in many ways, the pools that we're looking at, and I appreciate that the work that you're doing on that part. The third part, which is a difficult part, which is what do we do about the 11 or 12 million undocumented aliens, is a difficult part. And keep in mind that about 40% of the folks that got in across the river, because everybody thinks they just came in across the river illegally, but about 40% of them came in through a legal permit or visa, which means that we did not tell them it's time for you to go in and leave. And this is an important thing. And this is why, you know, when people start talking about building a wall and all that, it really doesn't matter because 40% of them came over through a legal permit and visa on that. So we got to be smart on how we do this process, and certainly one of the things that we have to look at is looking at putting the resources not only in Homeland Security, and we'll be handling part of this through our committee in Homeland Security, but the other part is working with the State Department, because right now it's so easy for them to just say denied, denied, and the people that are trying to come in the legal way has become just it's become very difficult. So I want to thank you for the work that you've done, and I appreciate the cooperation that you're showing the committee here.
Congressman, I just want to thank you for your help and your assistance being from the border. I think you make an excellent point because I listened to the colloquy between my friend Mr. Shabbat and my friend Mr. Ellsworth about criminals. The fact is we put 20,000 beds in our legislation, 20,000 beds that don't exist today. I mean, we're smart and we're tough in our legislation. And we say prosecute. The other thing we do in our legislation so that we understand, we order that every person in a jail, go through a security check on their immigration status. That is, every inmate has to go. And if you are not legally in the United States but in a jail, we make it seamless. From your point, you don't like get out of jail and be released back into society. Our legislation calls for a seamless process from that jail cell, whether it's in Texas or in Oklahoma or in New York, straight to a facility to the Department of Homeland Security and deport it. That doesn't happen today. So I would hope that people would look at the enforcement capacity that we put in our legislation. We're tough, but we're fair, and we want a solution to the problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Cuellar.
Would a gentleman yield?
Yes, and then I would just conclude.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. The gentleman, I think you're right. You said they don't all just come across the border, across the river illegally. Some are already here, about 40%, and have overstayed their visas. I would just comment relative to that. You had mentioned that we don't tell them it's time to go back as if it's the government's fault. My understanding is that people know that the visa is for a certain period of time, and they've failed to comply with the existing law, and so they've overstayed their visa. So at that point, they're illegal. Now we need clearly, if they haven't gone back, we need to follow up much better than we do now, and I think that's the point you're making.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. I'm sorry, I said it that way.
Okay.
I mean, we basically should know when somebody's time is over, which we do, but then we got to follow up on that, because when you talk about 11 or 12 million undocumented aliens and about 40% of them overstate their time, that's a serious problem. Let me just conclude with this, Madam Chair, just one last point. We just got back from Honduras, and we got back from Mexico City. We got to work with the Mexicans on securing their southern border, because if you look at what's happening, you got so many Central Americans and what they call, this is a jargon that Border Patrol uses, I don't know what's a PC word, other than Mexicans, because they classify Mexicans coming in and other Mexicans, Central Americans, other countries are coming in through our southern border and other parts of that. So we got to work with other countries on that.